I heard Porsche wanted to name their new car GT3 RS 992 Model E, but the name was already taken. Welcome to another interesting episode, guys. Today we'll be discussing what we know so far about the upcoming 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 RS 992. The Porsche 911 GT3 is hardly an enigma, yet its greatness is hard to explain. Facts and figures don't tell the whole story, and superlatives sell the experience short. The upcoming Porsche 911 GT3 RS has been spied yet again, and with details of the 992 GT3 now official, it should only be a matter of time before we get the Porsche's latest track weapon on the road. Porsche has been testing the 992 GT3 RS in public since at least August. Porsche's track-focused 911s follow a very predictable pattern. The GT3 and GT3 RS bridge the gap between the classic 911 Carrera and the series-compliant 911 Cup Car and RSR offerings. The GT3 borrows the Cup Car's power plant, a 4-liter flat-6 engine, tweaked to produce 502 horsepower and 346 pounds of torque, down just 8 horsepower and 1 pound-foot. As is tradition, the RS treatment is expected to be even more over the top, largely thanks to the fact that a street-legal track car doesn't need to conform to the same regulations as a bona fide race car. To that end, we expect the GT3 RS to pack a bit more power than the standard GT3, likely north of 550 horses, and be offered exclusively with Porsche's dual-clutch PDK gearbox, as has been with the case of recent RS models. The 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 buys you a glimpse of the future, of sports cars at least. With the most talked about new 911 since the 911R, Porsche enthusiasts have been eagerly anticipating this latest GT3 from the time the 991.2 series was replaced by the 992 in 2019. Meanwhile, the GT3 variant based on the previous platforms continued to be made through 2020, satiating the appetites of the most ravenous Porschephiles. Porsche paleontologists who dig into the 911 fossil record can trace the DNA of the GT3 to the 1973 911 Carrera RS 2.7, a limited run made in touring and sport configuration to homologate a lightweight 911 for competition. The intervening years saw some club sport and other RS models, but the GT3, developed for Cup Grand Touring, only came on the scene in 1999 with the 996.1 series, which happened to be the very first water-cooled 911 production model. Since that time, the high-revving naturally aspirated GT3 has been on the wish list of most enthusiasts, and for reasons that become abundantly clear the minute one gets behind the wheel. Some of the things that make the new 992 series GT3 special. From a distance, the GT3 bears a resemblance to the previous model, but surprises reveal themselves when you get within 10 feet. A quick glance shows the new GT3 to be fractionally longer, taller, and with a front track of 63 inches, wider than the 991.2 version it replaces. Impressively, at 3,164 pounds for the PDK transmission version and the 3,126 pounds for the manual, it weighs about the same as its predecessor, with lighter glass, exhaust, battery, brakes, wheels, and greater use of composites. For example, the lithium battery saves roughly 22 pounds compared to the battery in the previous 911 GT3, while thanks to metallurgy and soldering techniques, the new sports exhaust shaves off another 22 pounds. Lighter centerlock wheels feature thinner and more angular spokes than the previous design. From 20-inch wheels are a half-inch wider at 9.5 inches, while the rears are now 21 inches in diameter and a whopping 12 inches wide. Going on the hunt for unwanted pounds results in a weight-to-power ratio of 6.23 pounds per HP for the manual transmission model. According to Porsche GT head Andreas Preuninger, we were entering a field of diminishing returns concerning engine development, especially in Europe. So we had to look at other performance-relevant fields of engineering. In essence, his team had to re-engineer the whole car, getting more performance with about the same power. This meant more aero, more contact patches, and more weight-saving measures at every turn. The result is greatly improved aerodynamics adapted from the 911 RSR Le Mans race car. The engine room in the back is where the power gets dished out from a 4-liter flat 6 that takes deep, naturally aspirated breaths and makes 502 horsepower at 8,400 RPM. Most closely related to the previous 911 Speedster engine, it's the only non-turbocharged boxer in the 911 lineup. Entirely different from that made with the engines in Carrera and turbo models, the sound is intoxicating as the revs instantly build a 9,000 RPM red line, accompanied by 346 pounds of torque at 6,100 100 RPM. The intake of the motorsport-derived engine uses 6 individual throttle bodies. In contrast, the dry sump lubrication system uses a composite oil tank that is lighter than the aluminum unit in the previous GT3. The big news is the front suspension, which, like the aerodynamics, is adapted from the Le Mans winning 911 RSR. Complex and costly to implement, it's a double wishbone with an anti-roll bar design that replaces the tried and true McPherson spring strut setup of previous street 911s. Though it seems impossible, the new suspension offers even more precise handling than the 991.2 GT3, with predictable cornering uncompromised by irregular road surfaces. Most memorable is how stable the car is over bumps, though residual comfort is outstanding and even better than the outgoing model. The finesse and feedback of the electromechanical power steering remain a parlor trick that Porsche performs so well. Power, of course, is delivered only to the rear wheels, the suspension for which is Porsche's multi-link rear axle with an anti-roll bar setup. Rear axle steering, as on previous GT3, virtually shortens the wheelbase for greater agility. Porsche Torque Vector Plus, PTV Plus, varies torque distribution to the rear wheels, making the GT3 an even more sure-footed accomplice on Angeles Crest Highway. Porsche is like a beautiful lady that enters a bar full of men with lustful eyes. They will all be marveled at her look and fix their gaze on her until she leaves. Porsche is undoubtedly a king in the kingdom of luxury cars, and it has proven that yet again with the upcoming 2022 Porsche 911. The car features a sharp, in-your-face line, wider front wings, brake ducts, and huge air vents on the hood. The car is quite obviously tuned for performance. With ventilation and aerodynamics taking priority, we expect increased performance over the already track-focused GT3. At the back is a monster of a rear wing that looks fresh off the back of a raw Weltbegriff tuned Porsche that shows that the 2022 GT3 RS is not playing around and isn't meant to be confused with the classically refined and traditional models such as the standard 992 Carrera. Twin exhausts are nestled amongst the rear diffuser in staggered 20-21 inch, Vizok package wheels wrapped in 2065 by 35 ZR20 tires in the front and 325 by 30 ZR21s in the rear plant the GT3 RS low to the ground. If the RS delivers performance that is anything as remarkable as it looks, we're expecting this car to be something truly special. The engine and transmission at the end of the 911 GT3 is a familiar, naturally aspirated 4-liter flat 6 that makes 502 horsepower. The engine is essentially identical to the one that powered the last 911 Speedster, which spun to 9,000 RPM and sang a hypnotic tune. The new GT3 offers both a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, aka PDK, or a 6-speed manual. The PDK showcased the automatic's intuitive behavior as well as the engine's spirited responses and intoxicating soundtrack. The most notable performance upgrade on the GT3 is its control arm front suspension, which is inspired by the race car version and is a first for a production 911. Combine that with a standard adaptive dampers and sticky Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 or stickier Cup R tires, and the coupe's chassis provides tremendous corner and grip and unfiltered feedback. While the ride is undeniably firm, it's never punishing, and the electrically assisted steering is so divine that it deserves anointment as the best in the business. Stopping the purists' Porsche are massive binders that include a carbon ceramic option that provides heroic braking power, easy modulation, and resists fade at the track. In GT3's interior is very similar to the rest of the 911 lineup, with a clean design and simple layout that pays homage to past iterations of Porsche's quintessential sports car. However, there are a handful of unique characteristics throughout the cabin. The GT3's gauge cluster still features a prominent analog tachometer flanked by digital displays. Still, it gets a specific GT mode that puts all important information directly on the displays. Models with the automatic transmission also replace the stubby center console shifter found on the regular 911s with a traditional looking handle that mimics a manual shifter. As in the last GT3, there is no cramped backseat for kiddos, but fur babies can snuggle in there if they can stand the noise. Porsche also offers more than one front seat style, with an optional set of lightweight buckets designed to reduce mass and increase support. This is where we truly expect the 2022 GT3 RS to shine. With the standard GT3 featuring a 4-liter naturally aspirated flat 6 that delivers 503 horsepower at 9,000 RPM and 347 pound-feet at 6,100 RPM, we anticipate the RS to be tuned even further. Many enthusiasts are hoping that a manual transmission will be offered in addition to the PDK, but since this car is entirely track track-oriented and designed to deliver the fastest possible lap times, we aren't expecting to see the RS equipped with a third pedal. With a 0 to 60 time that is likely to be closer to 3 seconds rather than 4, we're expecting it to be quick, but even faster around corners. Even though it is unlikely to challenge its sophisticated sibling that features forced induction, the RS is certain to be far more visceral experience, with a raw driving experience that is meant to keep you eyeing up the apex rather than the effortless Autobahn-style cruising. The infotainment system found on the regular 911 finds its way into the GT3 version. That means a 10.9-inch touchscreen inhabits the center of the dashboard and is supplemented by some physical controls on the steering wheel and the center console. Porsche's connectivity features include wireless Apple CarPlay and Wi-Fi hotspot. There's also an option to upgrade to a Bose stereo, with aggressive styling cues that are all about function and performance that we bet will almost be the limit of what Porsche can exact from a flat 6. The GT3 RS is almost certainly going to be the most exhilarating performance-oriented model in the 992 lineups unless we're blessed with a GT2. Likely to feature a price tag that falls just shy of $200,000, the GT3 RS sits in a very niche corner of the supercar market. It may not be the car everyone is waiting for, or even knows about for that matter, but for the few that truly appreciate the boundaries that Porsche pushes in this car, we don't think they will be disappointed. For those who manage to secure one, we don't doubt that it will put a smile on their faces every single time they put their foot down and its 4-liter engine screams. When I landed in New York, the TSA asked me, "Are you here for business or pleasure?" I responded, "I'm here for the new 911. The only complaint I have about the new Porsche is I have to stop here. Let me know what you think about the upcoming 2022 Porsche in the comments section. If you want to stay up to date with all my new videos coming out, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell next to the subscription button. Turn on all notifications. That way, you will be notified whenever a new video is released. Do have a great time. Till next time. Bye.